This is the second video on hypothesis, that is sources and characteristics of hypothesis. The question was like this: briefly discuss different sources of hypothesis and explain the characteristic of good hypothesis. June 2016 question: hypothesis is an educated guess based on the available evidence which is further proven or disproven through scientific method. It is an educated guess. It is in the form of a statement or in the form of a question, and then later on we can prove it through the process of scientific method. Hypothesis is a strong, concise statement that form the basis of research. That is the definition of hypothesis. Again, let us see what are the characteristics of good hypothesis. First point: a research hypothesis has to be simple, clear and justifiable. The hypothesis should be in simple language and it should be clear and justifiable. Second point, it has to be testable. If it is too far-fetched from reality, your research would be rendered pointless. Actually, it should be near to reality. It has to be precise, that is, what you are trying to do and achieve through it should come out in your hypothesis. Whatever we are trying to find out and whatever we are going to achieve through testing that hypothesis, that should be clear from our hypothesis. Next point, a research hypothesis should be self-explanatory, leaving no doubt in the reader's mind. Whoever is looking at that, there should not be any doubt or any question on that. It should be very clear and self-explanatory. If you are developing a relational hypothesis, whenever we are talking about a relationship between variable, you need to include the variables and establish appropriate relationship among them. What is the relationship between them? It is in the positive way or in the negative way. All the researcher should make it clear. A hypothesis must keep and reflect the scope for further research or further investigation. Now let us see what are the sources of hypothesis. Actually, the formulation of hypothesis is an important step, an initial step in order to conduct a scientific process, in order to conduct an experiment. The value of research is determined by the result or conclusion arrived at after testing the hypothesis. After testing the hypothesis, a researcher reached at a conclusion. The importance of research lies in that conclusion. The sources available with a researcher for deriving the tenable hypothesis are the following. Now let us see what are the different sources. The first source is experience and creativity. A researcher with creativity and a good experience are capable of deriving adequate hypotheses. While working in an environment, researchers come across many problems and requires hard work to solve them. Critical analysis of the situation helps the researcher to make a suitable hypothesis. In order to make a critical analysis of a particular situation, a researcher need a creative mind, and at the same time he should have enough background knowledge. Then personal experience of the researcher as a result of his personal reading of biographies or autobiographies, newspapers, research papers, relevant literature, informal talks with friends, socio-political speech, etc. can be the potential source in the generation of hypothesis. Through all these means, researcher can make the background knowledge that also help him to produce a good hypothesis. Next one is good background knowledge or related literature. The related literature is an important source of hypothesis formulation. Whatever literature is available based on the present problem or present situation, the researcher can go through this related literature before making the hypothesis. Next one is analogies. Analogies are strong source for the formulation of hypothesis and finding out the solution to the problem. Reasoning by analogy is based on similarities and differences between two situations. Whenever we face a problem, we always try to solve it in all probable ways. Maybe in the past the same problem must have arisen and we solved it in proper way. Maybe the same method we can use it in the present situation also. Like that, the researcher can also find out analogies from the past studies. For example, a research problem like studying the causes of burnout tendencies among college students. Now, in different colleges, we can see the burnout tendencies in the students. The researcher can insightfully think, why were burnout tendencies not found among college students 20 to 30 years back as they are today? Now there is burnout tendencies, but 20 to 30 years back it was not there. Why? What has changed now? Quality of teaching or the pressure from the home front? What all changes happening? Because nowadays we can see the burnout symptoms, but earlier 20 to 30 years back it was not there. That way the researchers can think about analogy. Arguing analogy in this way may lead the investigator to some conclusions. Next source is scientific theories. A systematic review and analysis of the theories developed in the field of psychology, sociology, political science, biological science, etc. may help the researcher to provide a suggestive base to formulate a hypothesis. For example, in order to solve a problem in the educational field, maybe an educationalist or a researcher in the field of education can make use of theories in the field of psychology. Here, for example, a researcher working on the modification of teacher behavior may be benefited by Skinner's theory of behavioral shaping. So, another source for hypothesis is scientific theories. Next one is authentic knowledge. Since hypothesis offers a solution to the problem, it must be formulated in consonance with authentic knowledge. If the hypothesized relationship among the variables involved is substantiated, then the researcher proceed in a meaningful and scientific manner. You can make it clear from this example. If a researcher is working on motivation, then the Maslow's hierarchy of need will provide an authentic source for hypothesis formulation. What is the base for the formulation of hypothesis here? Maybe the Maslow's hierarchy of need. That is already there in the field. That is an authentic knowledge. Based on that, the researcher can make the hypothesis. So all these are the sources of hypothesis. Now in this essay there are two topics: what are the sources of hypothesis and what are the characteristics of a good hypothesis.